Hello, family, Regiment Addict. I tell you, this is a prime example of we do have fun in recovery. But now it's time to get down to business. I have the privilege and the honor to introduce our speaker for tonight. I have the honor and the privilege to introduce our speaker tonight. This wonderful lady, my wife. Tell y'all a quick story how we met, and we'll move on because we got to go. We met in H&I. And to make a long story short, we got together and we got married. We've been together ever since. Here we are right here. She got on the speak circuit, and I've been her traveling companion, her confidant. She is such a beautiful, wonderful woman. She is very creative. She's a writer. Man, I go on and on and on and on of the things that this wonderful lady is. I always said that, you know, me and her is a team, right? Whatever we do it together. Everything we do it together. When you see her, you see me. I don't hang with the fellows like I used to. When you see me, you see her. And honey, I want to tell you that I love you, and I know you're going to give us a good message tonight. With no further ado, I give you TERESA F.
Okay, I get my napkin first. Hello, family. My name is TERESA, and I'm an addict. I wanted to tell that guy, that music back on, because I was ready to get my groove on. You hear me? Y'all rolling in here tonight. Give your damn self a hand. All right now. Hey. And where the guy at? Whoosh. Back to you. I tell you, this has been a lovely, lovely convention. One of the best that I've been to since I've been out here. I'd like to thank, first of all, God. That's the #1 person on my list, because without him, none of this would have been possible. So I want to give God all the praise and the glory right here tonight. Publicly, because it's by grace and mercy that I stand before you this evening. Listen, I want to thank this committee. Let me tell you something. I have seen a lot of committees, but this has been one of the most special committees that I've worked with in a long time as far as getting me over to share the message of recovery. I'd like to thank certain ones, first of all, and this is not to take anything from any of you, but Darlene and Diane and Vivica, y'all have been with me throughout this process. Can you give them a hand? Let me tell you something. When I look out there in this audience, I see all these strange faces, but there ain't no strange faces out here. It's just friends I never met. Welcome to Narcotics Anonymous, the greatest show on earth. We don't rule, censor, dictate, mandate, control, force anyone to do anything. For the first time in man's entire history, there's been a proven way known as Narcotics Anonymous. We are the miracles sitting here this evening, and believe me, when I say for the first time in man's entire history, I mean you are a chosen people, because this is the first generation that Narcotics Anonymous recovery has been offered to. The first generation. Let me tell you something. I'm not going to be up here all night long, because you know what? We still got a long ways to go. God asked me to come here and do one thing, and I'm going to tell you how I got entangled with him. When he delivered me from this disease of addiction, I told him that if you deliver me from the grip of this predator of man, woman, and child, I'll be forever in your service. I will be indebted. I will carry this message wherever you want me to go. Now, just last night and all day long, anxiety been biting me right on my ass. You hear me? It's been biting me right on my ass. And it's been like the disease of addiction. I couldn't arrest it for nothing. I've been all up in my room. I've had anxiety all over. I've got 5 other illnesses that I suffer from. 4 of them I was able to work steps on, but the disease of addiction would not go back in its cage. I'd like to thank the speaker that spoke today at noontime. Is he here this evening? I'd like to thank you, my brother, for carrying that wonderful message. I'd like to commend you on your honesty. He got right up there and he told how nervous he was, and he even had his wife to sanction that. And I'd like to thank her for letting him talk about her today on that podium. I don't ask my husband all these questions. I have to be honest with you. But let me tell you some things about myself, because I'm going to go ahead and qualify. I'm going to spend maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Anything over that is my damn ego. I'm going to let you know now. So I'm going to get me out of the way. Let me tell you something. When I heard all this music, y'all took me back in time. What happened for me was, I'm a baby boomer. I come around in the 50s. I was born in 1950. In the 60s, there was the turn of the cultural revolution. There was the music revolution. There was a drug revolution. You see what I'm saying? And I came by and I was primed for all those things. You know, one thing about myself and every person in here, we all have a point of pain. You know, if you got here like me by way of pain, then you're in the right place. Now, let me ask you something to qualify you. Is 1 too many and 1,000 never enough? Do you not give up 5 minutes before the miracle? Do you keep it simple, stupid? Do you work steps and traditions? Stop lying. Not all the time, do you? Stop lying. But you do it to the best of your ability, don't you? That's right. Ain't nothing in smiling and having a little fun. Ain't nothing with a little laughter. Laughter is good for the soul. You know, so I'm going to just go ahead on a little further about myself. You know, of course, at a young age, I had my time with sexual abuse. You know, that was one of the things that happened in a dysfunctional family. But the biggest thing of all that happened during my lifetime, there was a time when the races were separated. I came along when there was racial segregation. And this is not to step on anybody's toes and talk about race, but I'm telling you how the fuck it was when I came into this world. You see what I'm saying? There were things that were kept separate. That's just our humanity, just our story. We all have to admit to history. And when I came along, being black was not the thing. You know, I had this problem with going into restaurants that had signs on them that said colored only. I had this problem with restaurants and different places that had signs on them that said white only. I remember my mother raising me as a child would work hours and hours, and in the evening time she would get on a bus, and on this bus she had to sit in the back. There was never any seats, so I would sit on the back of that bus with my mother. There was a metal fan back then. We didn't have air conditioning for you people who are microwave and remote control recoverers. I didn't have that. I was here before the color TV. I only had a screen that could pour off the color TV to make it a color. And it was all maybe 1 or 2 colors. Now somebody back there know what I mean. And when I came along, there was coin machines on the back of my TV, and I had to put a quarter in it, and they called it Meter-matic. They called it Meter-matic. Now today you got your rent-to-own tips around here. You know, you go to the store and they rent you this shit and you pay for it by the week or by the month. I didn't have that advantage then. When I went to school, my mother decided, of course, she always planned my life and controlled my life from the very beginning. So what she did was decided that I would go to a better school. I was in the busing. And before that, my mother was a part of the crowd that walked across the bridge during the time of civil rights. So here it is, I'm coming into a fellowship that I had no understanding of. When I think about how I got here today, and if I look back, I still wonder, how is it that I came to be talking to somebody, some people just like me, when just 15 years ago, I was in a prison cell. Just 15 years ago. And listen, that was not my first time around. That was my second time. I did not know after sitting in a cell and doing a 32-year sentence in prison that I was going to come up here one day and be speaking to people and looking them in the eye and not worrying about being ashamed. I did not know that. That lets me know that my higher power has a plan for me. See, he didn't tell me when I came that the crowd would be black, white, Hispanic, or otherwise. He just told me to come as I am. Now, just 2 months ago, I was in Boise, Idaho, and I was speaking to an all-white crowd of addicts. You see what I'm saying? And you know what? I was the only African-American woman there. And guess what? I was the closing speaker. I'm going to laugh on that one because you know what? I'm under the protection of the umbrella of the traditions because the only requirement for membership is a desire. So I didn't have to worry about a thing. I was in the right place. And the first thing that came to my mind when I got up there, I just told myself, well, in case you didn't notice, I'm African American. We broke the ice and we started our identification and we went from there. As I said, when that time of my life came, after the segregation and the integration era and the Cultural Revolution, and back when the dope was good. I don't know what y'all do now. Y'all got all these different chemicals and all this bullshit. You see what I'm saying? I'm sorry. You know, you done gave the damn game a bad name. Just simple as that. I'm going to say it like it is. You know, and don't mind me. I'm from the South, and I'm not about to come up here and be somebody I'm not. I'm going to come up here and be Teresa. Don't look for me to be politically correct. You see what I'm saying? Because everything ain't without spot and wrinkle in Narcotics Anonymous. And you just wait. I'm going to get to that shit in a minute. I'm hot. I got menopause going on. Don't make no difference, though, because after that good, daggone speech my husband gave, I'm going to still give him some tonight. See, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, y'all my people. All right now. But as I look back and I was thinking about all those things and all that I have come from and eventually going through the things that I did with the sexual abuse issue. You know, when I was a little girl, I remember always playing with a little boy that was down the street. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. I got this thing for gay men today. I'm attracted to them in a friendly way because all my life when I was a little girl, I had this little boy named Sonny. Now, Sonny was about 5 years old, and he used to be the bully of the block. And I had to fight Sonny. I was tomboyish during that time, and I fought Sonny. And Sonny, my uncles were so mean to him. You know, I didn't know what it meant when they call him things like a fag or a punk or a queer. You know, they give those names. So what happened was, when I beat Sonny, my uncles and them tied him to a tree. And when he was on that tree limb, he urinated on himself. And they wouldn't let him go, and they kept him tied to that tree all night. And I messed around and took Sonny loose from that tree. Sonny went home to his parents, and after that, I felt that it was my responsibility because I was partly to blame for his shame. That was how I became a great, great caretaker during that time. I was responsible for Sonny. I should have let Sonny whip my ass, and then maybe they would have had mercy on him. But as a child, when I saw that, my mentality was that I helped injure Sonny. Then as time went by, of course, we were inseparable. We went everywhere together, and I dared anybody to mess with Sonny from that point on. So what happened was, Sonny one day was crying and sitting on a stoop. And I asked him, I said, Sonny, what's wrong with you? He said, Mr. Brown hurt me. I said, what did he do to you? Mr. Brown was a neighbor that was upstairs over top of Sonny's house. He said, my mama sent me to get some sugar. He said, he hurt me. I said, well, what did he do to you, Sonny? He said, he turned me over and got on top of me. And then Sonny told me, he said, and I didn't want to tell my parents because I didn't think that they would believe me, and plus it was so disgusting. He was trying to tell me in his own childlike words what the man had done to him. And after a while, I stood by Sonny, but somewhere down the line, Sonny came out the closet, and him and the man got together on me. So that didn't stop me from the guilt but I became able to recognize and to deal with people who had differences. Because believe me, when they got that third tradition out there in Narcotics Anonymous, they don't think that gays and different people of different colors and so forth and so on were always welcome here. Now, you got to remember, we come from another fellowship. Ain't no need you're getting out there and getting a little wind in your jaws, because if you can't talk about your history, I don't know what you think you're going to do. I don't know where you think you've been. If you can't talk about your history, so what? I mean, we came from the AA fellowship. See what I'm saying? And before that, the AA fellowship was a spinoff from something called the Oxford program. Then when Mr. Bill W. came on the scene, you know, he came and he had his first sponsor. You need to know things like history, because your first sponsor was Abby Thatcher. That was the person who was the first sponsor in a 12-step fellowship. Eventually, as things went on, there was a lady named Sister Ignatia, and what she did was started the daggone a medallion process. Now, there was a time that you had to take your medallion and give it back if you got hot. See, things have changed. Your ass got it good now. I bet you after you done celebrate everybody and came and bought you shit for your birthday and everything like that, I can see somebody coming up to you asking you for your medallion back. You be ready to fight. You be ready to fight. Things have changed. You got it great now. And then after we came into our fellowship with Jimmy K and the rest of them, Danny Carlson, there are so many people. Jimmy K is just a co-founder. We got a lot of people responsible for this thing. And then we came from south of the border and took that fellowship principles and concepts, and we adopted them into our own. See, because I wouldn't want you to be a Jim Jones crowd, you see what I'm saying, and go jump off a bridge because somebody else did before you or told you what to do. See, we got gurus in here today, you see what I'm saying, that would shed their light on some things that they ain't got no business talking about. You know how we do. It's all right. We're in the greatest room in the world, a room for improvement. So that goes to tell me it's all right to be wrong. But just for today, when we took that concept and formed Narcotics Anonymous, and then addicts got together. And first of all, one more thing. Let me commend people like Mona. Let me commend people with 20 years or more clean. Let me commend the people who got clean off the white book. Off the white book. The white book. See, because the basic text and the how and why weren't always here. Those things weren't always here. Those people had to turn right around and go back to their last fellowship or the first fellowship and use their literature and use different things from their program just to stay clean. You know, I was sharing with a fellow in Durham, North Carolina. He was about 75% blind. And he was telling about how he had got clean on the white book. And his story entailed how he was going crazy sitting up there trying to go through that information over and over and over again. See, we weren't as strong as we are today. And he was talking about how he struggled. And because he wasn't doing a lot of drama and trauma, some people had the nerve to get the fuck up and walk out. And he had seasoned recovery. You see what I'm saying? He had the kind of recovery that makes you know that he is recovering. You know, he didn't have that stuff with cut on it. You know how we try to get up here and sound profound and mess around and misquote the literature and make it into what we want it to be. Do anybody do that? Are we still doing that? I don't mean do anybody do it. Are we still doing it? Because we do that sometimes because it ain't nothing like a rush. When you're in the midst of sharing and all of a sudden people go to saying, that's right, or people go to clapping for you. Your damn ego ain't got nothing to do but go up. Self-centeredness is the core of your disease. I'm not saying you bad because of that reason. I'm not saying that, that there's shame to be cast on your head. I'm just saying we are people who have come from painful backgrounds. We are people who have painful memories and miseries. You know, we have been the cream of the crop of the most mistreated individuals here on God's earth. We have. And let me tell you something. Our history entails suffering when it got to the point where 1,200 approximately addicts got together and wrote the basic text. Can you imagine how many man hours went into the writing of a book that we can use today that has kept us from that dilemma that's out there that the young fellow was talking about. You need to thank God every day and thank those predecessors before you that made it so you could sit your ass in that chair. See? And sometimes we forget about those old timers. You see what I'm saying? Because the last group to carry the message, the ones that are still here, sometimes we look over top of them. You know, because sometimes we want what we want when we want it. And we don't want that anchor. We want to continue to be the sail. But when you look at a ship, having the sail and the wind in it is fine. But if you ain't got a good anchor to ground it, your shit is up the creek. I'm telling you for what I know. But as I move on in my story, because sometimes I get sidetracked because I don't ever want anyone to forget the people that came before us in this fellowship. But anyway, eventually, of course, I was introduced to some other things because being introduced to the sexual abuse had it tied up so that I could be introduced to money. So I got used to the money in exchange for the sex. So they taught me how to be a little young hoe in the early days. See what I'm saying? There was an even exchange. The person who exchanged that with me had always been an alcoholic since I've known him. I didn't know what those words meant then. But the disease of addiction stepped in when I stopped being the victim and became the victimizer because the damn relationship went on for 40 years. You see what I'm saying? I could not even be a survivor member in one of the sexual abuse groups because I hadn't stopped using. There was a time that even that particular thing that was done to me over and over and over again, I became addicted to it. I went into different relationships looking for that feeling. And a lot of times I had to leave one sexual partner and go to that particular person to finish the job. That's when I found out things later on about the disease of addiction being about a feeling. The worst feeling I can have is an addiction to sex. That's one of the worst feelings I can have. One is too many and 1,000 enough even with that. And what helped me and what helps me today to stay in Narcotics Anonymous and continue to grasp that concept is I remember those 5 stages I went through with everything. First of all, I remember the pain I need to identify with. And then I know about the addictive agent that I have to go through. I know about that addictive agent being anything starting off first with maybe drugs at the top of the list, all the way down to maybe cleaning, maybe the lottery, maybe a cigarette habit. It's all based on a feeling. And then once I fix, then what about that shame and guilt that comes with what I've done? I might have had to do some things that brought on those consequences. And then once that happens, I want to relieve that shame and guilt, and I want to go back because the pain has started all over again. And I can't stop until I step off and reach a bottom. See, I'm the addict that some of the things that I read in the basic text and things that I hear people say are not enough to keep me in this fellowship and grounded. I had to know about who got here and what they did and what they stood for. I had to know things like that. It was important to know history. That was the era that I came from. And then eventually as my life progressed, and eventually I came into Narcotics Anonymous, the first time was just a drive-by because I tried to do it without the steps. The only thing I wanted to do was put it in my jacket so that when I went in front of the parole board, they would let me out. Eventually Narcotics Anonymous showed up again in my life. This time, I stayed. In 1990, I decided that the war was over and I lost. The war was over and I lost. I went to treatment. I got introduced again to Narcotics Anonymous through H&I, hospitals and institutions. Hospitals and institutions. One day, somebody just like me came to that facility and told their story. That motherfucker was sicker than I was. After I heard that, I knew that Narcotics Anonymous was the place for me. Eventually, in coming to Narcotics Anonymous, I was encouraged to do service. I got into service work. I got into H&I. I couldn't wait until I got 30 days and 60 days and 90 days to carry my commitment. I couldn't wait. And in doing so, I began to grow. Now here it is, I came into Narcotics Anonymous hating people of European descent. To break it down even further, hating white folk. I did, because I had had so much history. Now when I got in there, I said, well, if I'm going to stay clean, I'm going to have to do something to change this way of life. So I got me a home group. And I got in a home group full of middle-aged white men. Old fuckers. Got in the middle of them. And let me tell you something. They raised me. They changed me. They taught me about the Narcotics Anonymous way. And when I was sitting there on this stool or high chair in the midst of our group conscience, and I was wanting to sound like a buffoon because I didn't want them to know that I didn't know anything, they would say things like, keep coming back, Teresa. It's going to be okay. Because I didn't want to act like I didn't know nothing, so I would put my mouth in everything. You know people like that? Ain't got a shred of experience on this shit, but wanted to get right dead in the middle of it. Just got to be down with something. So that's what I did. And in time, those same men taught me the traditions. You see what I'm saying? And they helped me with the steps. I have a sponsor, but these particular men knew how sick I was. So what they did was try to help me and encourage me. And from them, I went on to be the vice chair of H&I. And then the chair of H&I. It was like, it was on then. They started teaching me stuff, and I ran with that shit. I became the tradition police in no time. I said I was going to run Narcotics Anonymous. I mean, I was on. I was ready to correct you if you didn't dot an I or cross a T. We still got them here? I know your ass is out there. Just like I know you'll probably take my inventory, but that's all right because I got the right to my own conscience. Just for the night it's on me. You came to see me, so just roll with the fucking punches. You know what I mean? It's all right. I'm all right. You all right. We in the right place. So when I learned those traditions and I went on to be the vice chair of the area. Then I went on to be the chair of the area. And I must say this, not to boast or brag, but I was the first African-American female chairperson in my area. And the good old boys gave me hell. I'm not going to tell you any lie. Because I'm from the South. I'm talking about the South. See, y'all a little more laxed up north, aren't you? Okay. We'll talk about that too. But I'm you know, it was deep. And the chairperson and the treasurer would get together and have secret meetings and not include me. I went through hell. But you know what? Only thing that I remembered was the third tradition guaranteed me the right to be a member of Narcotics Anonymous because the only requirement was a desire. I was able to quote those traditions, and that helped me stick around. Now, further on in my recovery, I found out that I could use those traditions in other areas in my life. You know, I bet you 9 to 10 to 20 that the damn relationship workshop was packed today. I bet it was. If only you would carry your ass to the traditions meeting, you would have a grasp on the relationship. Now, I'm going to tell you how I know. Let me tell you something. Our common welfare comes first, me and my old man's. Personal recovery depends on inner unity. I took that personal recovery and made it our marriage depends on our unity. Don't we have to take care of one another? We have to take care of ourselves in order to intermingle in the marriage to begin with. 2 sick puppies is not going to do it. Common welfare means taking care of ourselves. You know, and that ultimate authority in the marriage, God, makes it so he's not in charge and I'm not in charge. See, when Narcotics Anonymous put those traditions out there, we didn't care or we have no opinion of what you do with them outside of Narcotics Anonymous because we are the society that wants you to heal. We want you to heal. If you can use it to heal, fine. And then that third tradition, the only requirement to stay in the marriage was a desire. That meant stop fucking around on the outside of the relationship. Stop sleeping with multiple partners. You wanted to work? Do the necessary footwork. Then each of us was autonomous. It didn't mean that we had to give up shit of who we were. We were both in charge. Only thing we had to do was find a middle point where we would come together. That's all we had to do. And that fifth tradition, carrying that message that two old dope fiends like us could get together and make a marriage work. We talking about people that used to shoot dope. We talking about people who rob, steal. Ain't nothing in here but pimps, pushers, hoes, prostitutes. You see what I'm saying? Liars, robbers, murderers, thieves. Reformed. Put that in there because I don't want to make nobody mad. And if you mad, call your damn sponsor the minute you hit the door, because I'm not going to sit up here and try to people please and seek your damn approval. I come to carry the message and not the mess. I'm not saying nothing wrong. I'm just saying it the way I see it. I'm giving you my perception. They asked me to come. Next year, let them ask your ass and see how you like getting up here on the hot seat and then got to worry about whether or not you politically correct or worry about whether or not you stepping on somebody's feet or is somebody going to get you after the meeting and try to do a fucking group conscience on you. I ain't playing. I'm going to tell you like it is. Ain't near one of them, not one time, gave me a break. I've been recovering hard since day one. I didn't have a break when I was out there doing crime. See, the judge didn't have to lay me down with 32 years. I was sorry if I got caught. I didn't need to have consequences to my actions like it was. But you know what? I guess you'll get consequences if you in a burglary ring and y'all done hit 5 different jurisdictions. I guess they don't want to hear your sorry after that, do they? I don't know. But anyway, my thing is this. Narcotics Anonymous today. And let me get back. One more tradition. That's 6th tradition. Money, property, and prestige. Every time your ass get mad, do you go and say, this is mine? That's my car. Give me back my ring. Give me back my leather coat. Give me back my house. Give me back my whatever it is that you gave because shit didn't go your way. Well, money and prestige, in order to not divert, has to be a we thing. When we accumulated those things, or even if I came in at the tail end of the marriage, or the tail end or beginning of the relationship, what's ours is ours. What's yours is mine, and what's mine is yours. How you gonna get in there and all of a sudden you get prestiges on your man or your woman? How do you do that? Let me tell you how me and homie had to fit that one. We had to fix that one because I don't know any dope fiends that want you to know what's in their pocket. You see what I'm saying? If you know what's in my pocket, you just as good as well as know how much dope I got. You know how we want to slide and have that one little one for ourselves. We might turn you on and so forth and so on, but there's something in the Bama. That's what happens when we are out of touch with a 6th tradition. So me and Honey went and got direct deposit. That means that every shred of money from my check, I'm on disability. I ain't hear nothing about that. He works a job, all our monies come together. See, and once they come together, what's left, we split it. But that way, all our money's together and we pay our bills. And the only thing that we got a right to look at or look for is what's left over and what my half is. Now, this is the first time that I've ever done that. Honey is the kind of man that when he was married to his first wife, his motto was, I don't never let nobody know what's in my pocket. See, now, if that'll kill something in the group called Narcotics Anonymous, imagine what it would do to me and him. So we had to get straight with that. And see, and I like to go on to the 12th tradition because my real favorites are 1, 3, 5, and 12. And in 12 it's about principles before personalities. But how about when I go into a meeting, everybody know who your significant other is when you go into meetings. After a while we get in touch. How about when I want to get in there and chop him down? How about when I want to get in there and take his inventory? See what I'm saying? And I want you to be on my side and say, well, that's right, girl. But you know what? There's always 3 sides to every story. His side, my side, and then there's a fucking truth. Ain't that something? The truth shall set you free, but first it'll what? Piss you off. So we go with that 12th tradition, and that's simply all I needed to know, because let me tell you something, I went to relationship workshop, and let me tell you something, the favorite saying is, keep what you need and leave the rest. I done left a lot of shit in there, because if I had to come and try some of that stuff I hear in these relationship workshops on my husband, he might leave me. He might. But I'm just saying the beauty of Narcotics Anonymous. And then we need to tell people we got 3 principles. Stop getting people in here and just teaching them about steps and maybe about traditions. You better bring them concepts in here on their asses. How you going to tell a story and don't tell the whole story? How you going to hide that information and tell people, well, you don't need it, you ain't going into service, and so forth and so on? I need the whole story. If I have it in my hand, at least if I go in service, I will know how to make an informed decision. It's our right to have all the literature. It is the job of the old-timer. It is the job of the recovery warriors, of the recovery superintendents, to continue to bring this information to the newcomer. It's our responsibility. It'll tell you about that in the concepts. Got one point of accountability. That's us. And then on the other side, the other note, and other area of Narcotics Anonymous, sponsorship. It's the heartbeat of this fellowship. It's the heartbeat of this fellowship. I'm not talking about going to a damn meeting and blowing your sponsor up. You see what I'm saying? Because I know y'all can get mad and go in there and tell this shit one side and it be all your sponsors' fault. See? Because I know for a fact when we're looking for sponsorship, for me, I'm looking for integrity. I'm looking for confidentiality, because I don't want you to tell all my shit. That ain't your responsibility. You see what I'm saying? I'm looking for somebody who has working knowledge of the steps and the traditions. You better be careful, because that new sponsorship book that's coming out, it suggests that you know the concepts as well as the daggone traditions. It suggests a whole lot more information than you've been laid back on with just getting by. Every damn body gonna have to go to work in here real soon when that shit gets passed. You think I'm lying? There's some of you that already know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking Greek. We got some voting to do, and it's gonna be real soon. And we're not without spot or wrinkle. Don't you know that some years ago there was $50,000 embezzled from World Service? See, we need to talk about some stuff. See, it's all right to talk about your story and put that focus on you and his story and her story, but let's talk about the real truth. When it was $290,000 that was stolen. You see what I'm saying? Now, where was the fucking checks and balances? You tell me that. You tell me that. See, and I know there are some places that I'm going to go, and when I talk about things like that, I'll be ready to back my shit up. If you're not believing what I say, go send to World Service Office for a transition report, and then you'll get everything that happened. How we used and abused credit cards and personal accounts. You know, one time I went to Ocean City, Maryland. Me and my husband, and this old timer was up there sharing. He had every bit of 35, 40 years. He said, I know this is going to be the last time that they ask me to come back. He said, but before I go, homeboy ratted everybody out. He told how people were living like kings and queens off of our self-tradition donations. You see what I'm saying? He told about all that shit. And when I found out about that, there was a time that I stopped putting money into the basket. You see, because I'm a dope fiend. I didn't stop putting it in because I was so spiritual. I stopped putting it in because they weren't giving me none of the damn money. I'm going to be honest with you. See, because I'm not a speaker that comes up here and make you think I'm walking on water. And I lay this shit all out there. Oh, that's how it is. I done fucked up everywhere there is since I've been in this fellowship. All kinds of mistakes. Yeah, I could sit here and walk through the steps for you. But that's a personal relationship. See what I'm saying? Because all I need to know is I gave up, I cleaned up, I made up so I could keep up. There go 12 steps right there. You fill in the fucking blanks. That's not my responsibility. That's your stuff. See, because I didn't want to admit defeat. I didn't want to surrender to a power greater than myself. I'm the power. I would go places, I make the party. I didn't want to do an inventory. Inventory what? How do you inventory rights? And then you tell me to admit to God and another human being exact nature? Your ass probably could have put me in the penitentiary. Put me in jail or something if I wanted to tell you some of the stuff that I actually thought. Put me away. You see what I'm saying? I'm becoming willing to talk about my daggone defects, willing to make up a list. That shit sounds like something out of a comic book, don't it? Then humbly ask God to remove stuff? How do you think we made it out there? We made the way to get the drugs. You see what I'm saying? I didn't see God in that then. And then when I had to make amends, half the motherfuckers deserve what they got. Half of them deserve what they got. They got in my way. What's worse than getting in the way of a dope fiend and a pill of dope? That's just like a crime. Then going on with a daily personal inventory. And then finally seeking through God. See what I'm saying? Sought through prayer and meditation. God's will for me. And then having had that spiritual awakening, who wants to do all that? Me! And if you want to recover in this program, you better get busy and your ass better do it too. Your ass better do it too. See, because this is not a game. See, the disease of addiction, I'm going to tell you something. If you was to really see it for what it is and you could see it with your spiritual eye, it wouldn't be a whole lot of jumping and hooping and hollering in here. Because we are up against a predator. Not one of us can handle that predator by yourself. We are strength in numbers. We are here to exercise that motherfucker right the hell up out of here. See, because you can't come in here and harm one of us without coming up against all of us. We might not all drink from the same stream or go to the same well, but we all got to drink the water. You see what I'm saying? And that is the water of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm telling you, you new folk that are out there, welcome again to the greatest show on earth, Narcotics Anonymous. See, because who else wants your ass out there? You done burnt all your bridges. You ever wonder why Narcotics Anonymous meetings is in church? Last house on the block. Can't trust you. Can't trust you. And even today, finally, we got the recognition that we deserve. Because now it's like the court systems, everybody is starting to respect this God-given fellowship and sending people here with their little papers to sign versus going to the penitentiary like they did me. I get mad as hell sometimes when I think about that, because back when I was doing my time, they weren't sending you with a piece of paper. I never got a piece of paper to go nowhere but to be transferred to another damn institution. I got to sign this shit. And then some of them want to come in early, late, and leave early. I tell them in a minute, you pick that shit up at 8:15 and go and do what you got to do. See, that ain't no issue of control. A meeting is a meeting. They didn't say come for the serenity prayer. They said come for the meeting. Come for the meeting. See what I mean? See, because that's an issue. Folks be debating about that thing. And then a newcomer. You know, there's an old euphemism that came from the other fellowship, and it was called 13 stepping. Ring a bell. Leave them newcomers alone. You see what I'm saying? When I came around and my old man came around, they were saying things like, keep your thing in your pants and leave, had to get a newcomer a chance and all that old kind of aerobic shit. You know, but my thing is this. Once a newcomer come around here and we love him and put some steps up in him, he gonna leave your ass anyway. Because we gonna teach them how to love themselves. And they're gonna love themselves, and in loving themselves, then they'll know that they can only at that point mingle with somebody that truly loves them. We don't have to be predators of our newly converted, do we? We don't have to live the animalistic level anymore. I mean, it's just like being a bully and beating up on somebody who can't fight. And then after they've served their purpose for us, then we kick them to the curb. And a lot of times they go back out. What kind of shit is that? You know, is that providing an environment for protection in our fellowship? We take care of our own here. Sometimes we can get a lot of years and not enough days. You see what I'm saying? And the bottom line is when we do that, we hurt our fellowship. Get to somebody else. I mean, are you threatened by somebody with substantial clean time just like you? You can't play God with them? What you think? They don't want your ass? It's good to laugh. I ain't gonna mess around with a little shit here. Don't get mad at me. Like my man said, don't kill the messenger. See, because in one word or one way or another, that is an interpretation. Here in Narcotics Anonymous. So, when we come into this fellowship, let's learn how to respect each other. Let's learn how to love each other. We're talking about unconditional love. We're talking about spiritual principles. We're talking about how to treat each other with respect, integrity. You know, they spread that word around a whole lot, integrity. So let me tell you something. I'm about tired of talking now. Girlfriend been taking them fingers and zipping them through the air. I feel wind coming from this side. I done started spitting. I don't need to go no further because I don't believe in doing no fucking rambling. I'm an addict named Teresa, and hello and goodbye.